We give them a tour and we show them the space and we work hard. Sure, we make hats. Everybody knows that when they walk in, but they never really expect what they see when they get here. It's a cool, lively atmosphere, got fun music playing, and we push the culture on people. This is a place that I think is awesome to work, and I feel like you would enjoy it too.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman, and on this show, we bring you ideas and insights from across the construction industry and unique companies adjacent to the construction industry every single week to help you lead more effectively. This episode is brought to you by our very own The Simple Sales Pipeline. Over the last decade, we've been working with different firms in the construction space and have found that they are very, very poorly planning their sales forecast every single month. And after developing an Excel document and then a Power BI document, we invested in the easiest way to forecast your upcoming sales, and it is called the Simple Sales Pipeline. So if you don't have a CRM or you have a CRM that isn't helping you, you can solve that in under 30 minutes by going to thesimplesalespipeline.com. Now, like you, I'm always trying to be on the lookout for the best companies and understand what they are doing, whether we are serving them or we are buying from them or we are partnering with them. I want to understand, what are you guys doing to run a great business and build a great brand? And every now and then, I will have an experience as a customer that just blows my mind, and it has me thinking, and then over repeated times, I will confirm my suspicion that this is a really unique experience and they are doing things differently. And they are doing them very intentionally in a way that makes it easier for me to not only buy, but pay a premium and be thrilled that I'm paying, maybe not thrilled. I'm happy. I'm willing to pay a premium for this product. And that led to this conversation you will hear today. So several years ago, like many of you, I was buying swag, hats and shirts and other things with our branding or with key messages like "you are owed nothing, deliver value first." And I wasn't really thrilled with the experience or the product. And I'm a hat guy. I like wearing hats. I like buying hats. I like designing hats. And I was struggling to find someone that made that process easy. This was several years ago, and this idea of a patch hat, where a patch was being affixed on the hat, was new. So I started researching this, and I stumbled across Custom Patch Hat, and this company that was founded by Scott Alexander and Brian Cox. And my experience with them was, and to this day has been, so fantastic. I said, we got to get these guys on the podcast. I want to ask them more questions. They are not a sponsor. They didn't pay me. I am paying them. So there is nothing here other than a fantastic organization that I believe we can all learn from. And we are. We are trying to take some of the things that they do consistently and apply them to our own way of doing business, of serving people just like you. So anyway, you, my friends, are in for a treat. The company is called Custom Patch Hats, based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And you are going to be hearing from Scott Alexander and Brian Cox. They have a fantastic story to tell. And from a leadership standpoint and culture and hiring process, it applies to all of us, but also the products are very relevant as well. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with the co-founders of Custom Patch Hats. As always, thank you for listening. So Mr. Brian Cox, Scott Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited you guys are here. Huge fans. I'm a customer of yours for a long time. And every now and then, maybe once a year, there's a brand that we are working with that's kind of a derivative or maybe adjacent to the construction industry that we think so highly of that we reach out to the owners, we interrupt them, and we ask them to come on to our podcast to share their story. So I'm excited you're here. Mr. Brian Cox, let's start with you. Circa 12 years old. You're about sixth grade. Can you tell me where you were living? And at that age, like, what were you into?
12 years old, sixth grade. I was living in Lawrence, Massachusetts, kind of a suburb of Boston. I think at that time I was into skateboarding and wearing huge jeans and pants, and probably, I think, the Offspring for music back then. But yeah, I was a little skater punk back then.
The wide pant leg, the Offspring, the skateboard, that brings to me a very clear image. So that's very helpful. Thank you. Scott, same question.
I was spending all my days watching sports, pretending I'm going to be some version of a professional baseball player, cowboy, or astronaut. I couldn't really pick between the three. I had some big dreams that all really revolved around sports at that age. Nope, never got into the Jinkos though. Sorry, Brian.
So you guys have had some amazing success. And as a small business owner myself, this story and what you guys have done over the last several years kind of blows my mind. But as we sit here today, more than 2 million hats have been sold. You were number 140 on the Inc. 5000 for the fastest growing companies, with growth of, which is a ridiculous number, 3,390%. So if you can, tell me a little bit about how you guys connected. Because Scott, you were a high school math teacher. And when I think about being a high school math teacher, I would say that would probably drive me to drink. And then I see that you follow that up as a bartender. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe you were in a similar position. You guys then met. So if you guys can, tell me a little bit about how your paths crossed and what was the genesis for, what we could do? We could really make cool hats and make it easy for people like me to buy them and share them.
I think you got that right. That last part right there is really the foundation of what we were trying to do. There was a gap in the market, and people who were sort of doing what we chose to do weren't doing it how we wanted it done. I mean, that's really what drove the focus for everything, where we are now and where we started. But the origin story is kind of fun. I'll let Brian tell that one. We do this quite a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talk about from day one, Scott was a bartender at my local dive bar in my neighborhood. Started spending some time up there. He and I kicked it off. That turned into a friendship. I was doing freelance graphic design work back then. So I started just doing stuff for him at the bar, for bar tabs and free beer. That worked out pretty well. When we started making hats was I had a design client located down in Georgia that it was a brewery. We did all the branding, did the website. They said, okay, it's time for merch. I got a quote from my direct embroidery guy. It was too much money. It just wasn't going to work for him. So I asked him to give me a month. Let me see if I could figure this out. And I ordered some patches online. I ordered some hats online. I borrowed a sewing machine from my friend's wife. And I got on YouTube and figured out how to use it. I'd never stitched anything in my life. Stitched those up. I think it was 100 hats I made for him. I made it in a couple of days, made a few $100. And I said, for my living room, this is pretty cool. And the important thing was he came back 2 weeks later and needed more because he sold out. So I knew there was a market for this product. It was really unique, especially that time, looking 5 years ago, before the sort of patch hat craze sort of came back. That style became more popular. Scott was managing a bar. He, again, helped me out, threw me a bone and ordered some hats for the bar. They sold out in 2 weeks. So then I really sat back and thought, maybe this could be bigger than just me in my living room. Knowing my weaknesses, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that by myself. I'm great at designing stuff. I'm pretty good at marketing things. But when it comes to the nuts and the bolts of the daily tasks that need to happen to run a business, not for me. Scott, on the other hand, he loves that. He loves checklists. Having a background in math is super helpful, as well as his background in management, which I didn't really have much of. So we sat down in the back of this dirty dive bar and shook hands and said, I'm going to build this website and we're going to do it.
Yeah, it was a real no-brainer. I've been really thinking about how to get out of the industry. I'd hit a ceiling years prior and really just didn't know where I was going to go. I knew I wanted to start a family, and the service industry was not going to provide a lifestyle for that. Brian brought a good idea, and he identified a clear gap in the market. Really a fun moment. You can't do it anymore, but we did it that day when he said, dude, just Google custom patch hats right now. Like, nobody's doing it. I bought the domain, and it was an easy sell. And it worked then. It spawned from him coming into my garage and, hey, man, let's build some spice racks, let's build some concrete countertops. Every time we built something, it was, what's next? We worked really great with each other. We worked off of each other. And some of those foundational concepts that really drove our friendship then are really what drive the success of this company now. Neither of us had an ego that felt was more important than the finished product. We don't ever want to be right. We want things to be right. And it's always been like that. So he brought that to me and, he said, if it's not you, then it's nobody, man. So let's do it. And we did it.
That's really cool. Do you remember you guys are getting together, small sample size. You're like, hey, I just did this, kind of pulled it together. I'm fascinated to hear what your friend and your friend's wife said when you said, hey, I'm pretty sure that singer you got over in the back there, I need to borrow that. But did you have a sense of how big this market was or what it could be? Because I look at 3,390% growth. And yeah, I'm kind of I think we started buying stuff from you a couple of years ago. But in my mind, it would be a fairly competitive market. Do you remember, what did you think this could be?
I could tell you when the first orders started coming in and Scott and I both had other jobs. So we would just sit on our laptops and chat back and forth on the phone. And I was quoting stuff. He was ordering stuff. It's funny. We had this unobtainable goal that we thought we could work towards would be selling 100 hats per day. So that was our goal. To say we underestimated the market that's for sure.
And where are you at now?
80,000 a month right now.
80,000 a month. Okay.
Yeah, it's pacing for about $1 million a year is really about what we're selling right now. Beer money was the original goal.
Yeah.
If that still constitutes beer money, both of you guys and your families have some serious problems at this point. So kind of fast forward. So you get a couple employees coming along, right? At what point do you begin to say, these are the fundamental leadership principles that we're going to build this organization on? And maybe, Scott, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you kind of alluded to one that resonated with me, which is less of an ego about who is right versus what is right and how do we have a great product. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit about just my perspective of the customer experience. But can you tell me a little bit about the foundational leadership concepts that you said, this is what we're going to do? And maybe it's only 5 employees, or maybe it's 50 or 100, whatever that is. These are the leadership principles that you guys are going to display.
Sure. They actually kind of just came about based on our values. They just kind of arrived. The first thing that we started everything with was a high quality product. We were obsessing over quality. We didn't want to give anybody anything other than high quality. And if it wasn't perfect, then it wasn't right. So we stood by that. The rest just kind of came with it. We pride ourselves on company culture. It's something we wanted to start from the very beginning. We wanted this place to be a fun place to work. Brian and I show up to this same building every single day. We have from the very beginning. And I want to enjoy being in that space. And I'll make sure everyone else does too. So, it's you work hard, you play hard, and everything else follows suit, right? The people there are also invested in your product, and that quality remains high. And that's something that it started from the beginning, and we've stuck with still to this day.
That's what really kind of made us different. Scott and I didn't come from manufacturing. We didn't come from production. We came from design and having a good time. And we wanted to really transfer that as much as we possibly could. And I think it gave us a fresh perspective of how the industry worked, because we had no idea how it worked. We have no idea how it should work. We just built it how we wanted to build it. And being a little different in doing that and being super design focused and super quality focused and not being compromising on any of that. I think we have a 99.7% success rate with the stuff that goes out the door. So if something isn't perfect, no problem. We'll make it right. We're not going to fight with you about the details and colors. If it's not it was intended to be perfect. And if what you got wasn't perfect, then we'll go ahead and take care of it right away. You don't have to fight with us for it.
We have a fun story about that. When we first started, and I mean, this may have been our 3rd order. It came in, it was a big one. I think it was like 500 hats. I remember the name of the company, but I'll spare him a mention. He ordered hats from us, and it was a very big deal, and he had a variety of stuff. And we got these hats manufactured, got these patches manufactured, had them stitched on. We actually did not stitch them ourselves. We outsourced this one. We learned a lot of valuable lessons in this order. I had them stitched on by somebody else, sent them to him. He hated them. He sent them back to us. We fixed a bunch, sent them to him. He hated them. He sent them back to us. And mind you, we have like $25 in the bank account at this point. And we went into the negative on this one, and we're relentless. He was so incredibly patient with us, far more than any customer should ever be patient with a business, and let us work it out and give him a product he loved. but it really showed how relentless we were in pursuing perfection for him. There's a handful of lessons we learned from that order. But it was a great learning moment for us, and we were lucky enough to get it really early on.
I love that word, relentless. And what I have found on both sides, one where I was more of the problem than solution, other times where I'm on the buying side, is if people are relentless but somewhat incompetent, but they are committed to solving the problem, I think the humanity will come out for most. And I think back when I was building homes, when I started, I was likable, I was prompt, I was just bad. And people, like, they'd almost take pity on me. They're like, you're working hard. I know you're trying. And, you know, I think there's been studies done of doctors that get sued for malpractice. If they're nice and they're likable and they apologize, there's less lawsuits, you know? And I think that idea of, hey, we're going to be relentless. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to be relentless, I think is really interesting. I wonder if I could nerd out just a little bit, because we just had someone start Wednesday, 2 days ago. And our first core value is a quote that an old boss of mine said. He said, fun ain't free and it never goes on sale. And we spend so much time with each other and we realize we're going to try to achieve big things and there's going to be stress and there's going to be frustration. But if we're not figuring out a way to deliberately and intentionally have fun with each other, what on earth are we doing? And so when you said, hey, we want to make this fun, can you guys share maybe some kind of tactical examples? Like, this is what I mean. This is how we make sure that despite cranking out 1 million hats a year, that, hey, we're going to have fun doing it. Are there some really kind of specific examples that maybe our audience would be interested to hear on how you guys actually do that?
We try and do more and more every chance we get. I think the first real cool thing we did evolved from essentially like half-day Fridays, which got out of control a little bit, but we turned into, we do a monthly cookout. So the first Friday every month, we cater lunch for everybody, bring it in and make everybody stay clocked in. Nobody clocks off for lunch. And it's just 2 hours. We just sit around and play games, crack a cold beer every now and then, and just eat and enjoy each other's company. It's mandatory fun, but we try and make it worthwhile. Make everybody get up from their desk and get out of their space and come really just get a break.
Yeah, and I think on that too, we have a huge blowout Christmas party every year. It's probably the nicest Christmas party for a manufacturing company to rent out a really cool space in downtown Raleigh here. Open bar, drinks, food, dinner, band, kind of the whole 9 yards. Other things as well, we have CPH Beach Day. We rent out a beach at the state park up the street here for a day during the summertime. So we get everyone together, we get food trucks for everyone. That's something everyone can really bring their families to as well. They can't bring it to, Friday afternoon cookout, but it gets their families involved and we get to meet their families and kind of get a closer connection with everybody as well. That's
great. I appreciate you sharing those. Just curious, so like on your beach day, when they bring the family, how many people in total are coming?
Oh, man. It was like a couple hundred people, it seemed like, this last one. It was a lot. Yeah. So last year was the first year we did it. We're doing it again this year. And, it's one of those things. It's really, really cool to see. It's a really happy moment. We plan it. We build it. We prepare for it. Like, it's a Saturday. Or is anyone really going to want to come to this? You get nervous, then you show up and you see the response. It was emotional. It was pretty cool just to see how many people came. We had a couple of new employees. They came, they brought their families. We all just hung out on the beach and sat in the sun, played some games. It was a really great time.
Can you tell me a little bit about your decision-making process as you grow? We're having similar conversations just kind of in general about, and it's generally revolved around onboarding, retention, of like, we've got some talented people. The hardest thing for us is when we're losing good people for other reasons. But at a certain point, you start thinking, hey, we've got X number of people that are working here. How do we justify pulling people out or asking them to come on a Saturday or saying, hey, there's a cost to the business when we shut down half day on Friday. And not only are we not making money, but then we're spending it over here. And sometimes these numbers, right, as you scale, get higher and higher. Can you walk me through how you kind of balance those pros and cons of, and we want to make this a great place to work? And at the end of the day, yeah, there are some financial and time management decisions that are going to drive that.
I think the main thing is you have to accept the fact that you're going to sacrifice margins to have a happier workplace. That's kind of the simplest way to put it. We're really fortunate. We started with really big margins when it was just kind of us selling hats. They've shrunk over time as we've added, benefits and employees and support staff and management. But that was one of the benefits. It was big margins to start, and we've just accepted that they'll get smaller at scale. But we're not going to sacrifice this being a miserable place to work. It's kind of a no-brainer for us.
Those questions you brought up, like we actually don't have those with the staff. Brian and I will have them periodically. Like we have actually added a new celebration. We also do a monthly birthday thing where it's just kind of like we'll have coffee for everybody once a month, or if they're bringing in a crepe chef, all sorts of fun things. We just like chocolate covered strawberries one day. It's just like one day a week, put out a sign, celebrate everybody's birthday. We do that every month. But those questions, Brian and I, we discuss like at what point does this stop? And the answer is just it doesn't. People really love it so much. And at the end of the day, that's who we're investing in. So you can't roll that back.
I love that. Yeah. I remember a similar conversation with a former corporate company I worked for. And when we started, there was, I was probably like the 50th or 60th employee. And then 5 or 6 years later, there's almost 350. And we were having these conversations about some of the things about birthdays. And someone said, well, mathematically, when you get 365 random people, you're essentially going to have a birthday per day. And everyone kind of sat back and like, what do we do? So you can't do a birthday every day, but it's those sorts of things where, to your point, and Brian, I loved your point of bringing it back to margin, a common refrain that I have. And for you guys, I readily admit I am willing to pay more for your product. But when you charge what you're worth and have a large margin, that gives you flexibility on what to do. And some folks are like, listen, man, it's going to be a competitive, industry selling hats. Let's start thin. Well, as you grow, it's probably only going to get thinner, and it's harder to then to expand those margins. But if you don't have that additional profit, it gives you fewer options on what you can do to make it a great place to work. And I think everyone listening should be thinking, are we charging enough for the really thoughtful, generous things that we do with our product? And if it's not thoughtful and generous, well, maybe you want to rethink that as well.
Yeah. With our core values, like what we talked about before, quality is number one. We started considering ourselves a premium product from the very beginning, simply for the fact that we'll always stand behind it. We'll put every ounce of talent we have into the product and we'll stand behind it forever. And that's just really what we do. So we market ourselves as a premium product. So we were able to start high. And that's what we did. It was intentional. Just like you said, if you start thin, that's going south fast. That was part of the plan.
Let's talk a little bit about Emily or people like her. So Emily, it never was like announced, like Emily is the person who orders hats and helps, Bradley Hartman when he orders from Hartman and Company. But I would just find when I send in orders, the first couple, they just went to Emily and Emily got back to me and Emily's great. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I wonder if I kind of test this out sometimes. You're like, I worked with Emily in the past. Is this the type of organization? Can I just go back to Emily, who already knows me and knows what our orders are, and can she make it easy? And she has been incredible. And we've had kind of the conversation. I'm not going to try to poach her, but I'm like, we need people like Emily. She's super easy to work with. And this is just something that's, quite frankly, I shouldn't be ordering hats anymore, but I still do because I kind of love it. But she makes it so easy. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys have done behind the scenes? Because what I'm getting is I'm like, Emily's a person. I know her and she's awesome. And by the way, you have this little GIF where her face kind of comes and it goes in there. So I can see her. I know her name. And now I'm just like, hey, Danielle, call Emily. Let's order another 100 hats. Let's go do that. Tell me about what you guys have done attracting employees and from the customer standpoint that have me on the back end saying, this is part of what I'm raving about.
Yeah, that was really intentional from the get-go. Was wholesale merch is not a super sexy, fun industry. So we really, from the get-go, wanted to go out and start, we want to put a face. We want to mix being a retail brand with a wholesale product. And the avatars with their face on the bottom of the emails, that was extremely intentional. The fact that if you go on our website, it has a picture of Emily, myself, Scott, a lot of different people on there to show that people are going to be spending thousands of dollars with a company that they Googled. So we try to build that trust from the first touch that you have with us. And the fact that you work with Emily on every project, that is intentional as well. Once a client gets paired up with a designer, they'll work with them forever, as long as the client is with us, as long as the designer is with us. Because one, it's quicker, it's great rapport. You like working with Emily. We have a lot of fun, cool designers that work with us, and they'll know you, they'll know the project, they'll know your name, they'll know what you like, they'll know what you don't like. It makes the process a little bit more fun than just clicking a couple buttons on the internet and get some hats delivered.
Scott, maybe tell me a little bit about hiring people, because I'm picturing some sort of kind of factory setting. I'm assuming you got some big machinery that are doing some sewing things, and you got a lot of boxes coming in from whatever, overseas or wherever. On the surface, someone might say, dude, Brian and Scott are going to have a hard time attracting good talent. Maybe tell me a little bit about, in this economy, even now, I mean, yes, I realize that folks in kind of the tech sector, there are more layoffs, but I think for folks like us, especially in the construction industry, talent is still hard to find. What did you guys do to make it easy to say, here are the facts, here's the product, here's what we do? But that's different than what the culture is and what the organization is and why you're going to love working here. How'd you guys do that?
That's been quite an evolution, I can tell you that much. Speaking of Emily, we hired her in our first office in this probably 80 square foot room. I don't even know what we called it. And we hired her, we actually stalked her over Facebook, hit up her photography business. They're like, hey, we want you to come join us. We brought her in that room and pressured her to the job right on the spot. We had no idea what we were doing. No clue how to interview, no clue how to bring talent in. And we've learned quite a bit over time. But what that's really ultimately become is we bring people in-house for these interviews. We do our best to do that. And we give them a tour and we show them the space. And we work hard. Sure, we make hats. Everybody knows that when they walk in, but they never really expect what they see when they get here. It's a cool, lively atmosphere, got fun music playing, and we push the culture on people. This is a place that I think is awesome to work, and I feel like you would enjoy it too. That's really where we start with the conversation. And it's almost always where the conversation goes while we're interviewing folks.
I agree with that too. And I think on paper, it doesn't sound really cool, but once you get here and you see the design department cranking out, they're designing stuff, you see stuff coming in and out, you see stuff being manufactured, like, oh, this is a really cool product, and you see it going out the door. I think that, hats doesn't sound cool, but when you actually see them being designed and manufactured all in the same place, it feels really cool. That, and, we're a young company. Scott and I are pretty young. Most people that work with us are young. The growth we've had, and just, we have a really cool office in downtown Raleigh for the warehouse space that we're in. So yeah, I think it all kind of comes together, and like anything else, it's definitely intentional. We know what we make is not super cool, so we want to make sure the space is super cool. Manufacturing isn't sexy, but we try to make it really cool.
You mentioned the word intentional here, and that's come up a couple times. So as someone who's putting out a product in different forms, I'm always trying to think, how can we just have these little surprises, these little things where someone, and maybe half or 90% of the people don't even notice them, but some people are going to say, all right, these guys are doing a little something different for me. So I will give you a brief version of what you know. Maybe you can kind of help me deconstruct it. Box arrives, you've got the bear. I felt like an idiot for asking. The bear's name is Patches, of course. So it arrives here. So you've got your own tape. So the tape around the box, it's not come from Amazon. It's got your stuff on it, right? I get excited. And actually, I just had a delivery, I don't know, a week and a half ago. And I crack it open. There's a sticker in there. There's always a little business card of who it came from. There's a little autograph that it's not a stamp autograph. It's really someone wrote it. You can confirm or correct later. You can, I believe there's a date on it. We got the hats. They're all in the little plastic sleeves. I open it up. There's a nice little divider in there, and it says something to the effect of, keep going there, buddy. There's more hats below, or something like that. And I guess, yeah, stickers normally like at the bottom. And right now on something in my garage, and then my son has, I think, a notebook that has your custom patch hat sticker on it. So let me ask you, did I miss anything in there? But at every step of the way, and I've used this as an example with our team, I'm like, it's these little things that tell me they care and they're going the extra mile. A, did I miss anything? And B, maybe talk me through if that is an evolution or how you did all those things, because it's from a customer experience, in addition to being excited to get my hats with my stuff on it, that experience of unboxing it is also, for me, it's unique.
It's also the first physical interaction with our company. So we try to make sure it's an awesome one. This is something it's been an evolution. We literally used to ship hats in the boxes that we got from the manufacturer. They'd ship hats to us and we'd ship those to somebody else. And that cardboard box would show up feeling like a paper mache that had been gotten wet or something. It was just awful. Been bounced around and smashed several times. It was awful. So we started to get very intentional. You keep coming back to that word, but intentional about every aspect of it and making sure it was beautiful, making sure it was clean, making sure it was neatly packed, making sure it was branded. The keep digging more hats below sign was a great Brian idea. And he said a couple of them there. We get constant calls. We just put a divider in there originally to separate when you order 100 hats, 50 hats, they're stacked. So we put a divider in there. People pull out 25 or they pull out 50. And, hey, I'm missing half my hats, man. I don't have the rest of them. So, it was happened so often we had to tell them there's more, keep going there. It worked out pretty well.
Is that box still heavy? It probably is. There's more product in the box, but I can see myself being like, get these guys on the phone. Where are the... Oh yeah, you're good right here. But an elegant design solution to, if we're just in the habit of calling our customers idiots on a long enough timeline, you have to look at ourselves. But I think it's a really elegant solution to it. That's interesting to hear.
Yeah, we did. Speaking of that, we got calls every day, every single day, multiple calls. Where are the rest of my hats? Where are the rest of my hats? Believe it or not, we still do, but it's gone down quite a bit.
That last little touch, that was all Brian. It was such a smart idea. And it's back to what he said about making wholesale a real personal experience. That card really is hand signed by the designer. It's hand signed by the person who's stitching those patches onto the hats. And it's hand signed by the person packing those hats into bags and boxes and getting them out the door. Just to give that customer that feel that this was really done by some humans. And we want you to understand that we put a lot into this.
Yeah. So maybe here, let's transition a little bit. If you guys would allow me to, I would like to nerd out just a little bit on the product. So we just went through some rebranding on it. So this is the hat we got for Bradley Hartman and Company. And no such thing as a bad idea. It's only a question, are we going to act on this or not? But I went to Spain last year for the first time, and I'm a Spanish speaker and been to Mexico for a long time. But I was just stunned by just the design elements that I was always aware of for the soccer clubs of Europe. And we went to a bunch and I'm like, all right, we need our own coat of arms and we got to have this. And there's a little story about the Bulls. And anyway, I went deep on this. It is very detailed. I was absolutely stunned at the level of this. You guys call it a PVC hat, correct?
PVC patch, yeah.
Patch, right. Hat is Richardson 112. I'm a fan now. I still do love the Yupongs, but maybe someday they'll make more of those. Anyway, maybe you can talk me through. So we got a PVC patch. We've got woven, embroidered. We got leather. So maybe just give kind of a patch overview 101 for our listeners. And then if you would, tell me how you make this patch this awesome for the PVC.
Yeah, so you kind of nailed all the big ones that we make. And it's been an evolution. We started making just one type of patch. I didn't know that there were 25 different types of patches out there that could be made. So we, with the fine details, we can get woven, we get those PVC patches you got, and just what the market, what's cool, what Scott and I think are cool. I'll go through, this idea all spawned from walking through Dick's and seeing Columbia with a patch on a hat. And I said, wow, this is cool. So I'm going to Google if they walk through the store and they want some of these for themselves. That's really the birth of custompatchhats.com. It wasn't really anything crazy about it. Yeah, we have the patches. We have different decorations. We have labels that go on the back of the hat. We do direct embroidery as well, your kind of traditional direct embroidery on the hats, as well as some new silicone transfers that are really cool. It's a rubber material that, again, came through walking through REI and seeing Arc'teryx put it on hats. I said, cool, well, if someone sees this, we better know how to make it before everyone else does. Just try to stay on top of the market. And it allows us to be flexible and really, like you said, with your design, that's the perfect material for your design to get all those fine details on there where it wouldn't work with what we were originally making. And the designers like Emily know the ins and outs of all these products and steer you in the right way to make sure that you get the product that you have in mind.
Can you tell me, and maybe you're like, Hartman, you are of too little knowledge for me to explain this in simple terms, but what are you guys doing on this PVC? And PVC, when I obviously come from the construction industry, and Brian, I know you are as well. When I hear PVC, this to me feels like a rubber, but what are you guys doing here? And by the way, if you're just listening to this as a podcast on audio only, go to youtube.com and we'll have this. You can actually see exactly what we're referencing here. In terms that I understand as a layman, how is this done? I'm blown away by like the relief of it and the three-dimensionality?
So it's a block of aluminum that's milled down with a CNC machine with all the different layers of the colors. And then this liquefied PVC product is filled in all the gaps and all the different layers, just like a printing machine. And then it dries, pop it out. There you go.
No kidding.
But yeah, the amount of detail that we're able to get on that is just incredible.
It's wild. It's incredible what can be achieved with PVC. It's just things you'd never think would be able to come to life. We have manufactured at a real high level. You can get the 3 dimensions at 90 degrees. You can have them rounded off, different levels and layers. It's limitless what you can do with that stuff sometimes.
Cool. Well, for our audience here, construction leaders, we're sitting here. So we're recording this in March. This will probably be out here in the next 4 weeks or so. So we got summer coming up, but also we got lead times. And I think before we know it, we're going to snap our fingers and it's going to be kind of the fall. So Brian, maybe I'll start with you. You've got a background in construction, did that for a decade. Maybe just both you guys offer up a few recommendations for folks who have budgets. We know construction industry, we like good gear. We wear a lot of hard hats, and therefore when we take off our hard hat, we look like we're a little sensitive how our hair looks, or maybe it's just me. So we like to wear hats too. What should folks be thinking about? Maybe some new products or maybe some popular things or trends that you guys are seeing that our listeners should invest in to have their brand pop and, build more loyalty for the brands that they're representing.
Yeah, so I think you start at our standard, which is that Richardson 112, that one that you have. It's a high quality hat. It'll last forever. And what we really always talked about and why our company, I think one of the main reasons why it's become successful is we only sell high quality products. So if you're on a job site and you're giving away a hat, what's the point of giving away a hat that, they're going to throw it on their dashboard, or they're going to throw it away, or they're going to throw it in the back of their closet. And Scott kind of coined, the saying is our hats end up on people's heads where others end up in their closets. And that's really the main thing that we've looked at. And beyond that, the guys working on the field, the straw lifeguard hats, big wide brim lifeguard hats, keep the guys cool during the summertime. That's what I wear at the beach. That's what I wear when I'm working out at the house. I think anything to keep your guys comfortable. When they're comfortable, they're more productive and they're happier. When you look at employee retention, if you guys really kind of set people up to feel good, to look good, and to be comfortable when they're on the job site, it's important.
I think to add to that, Brian, is what you touched on a little earlier. The SPF shirts, they're great for sun protection and moisture wicking. They're real comfortable. And we have another decoration model that's silicone that we've been working with here. It's kind of a new product. That's really going to be excellent for anyone who's out in the sun for any extended period of time.
We invested in your laser engraved leather keychains, and there was some robust conversation here within our organization. Took way too long, but we have Eric, the producer, who will be producing this, was basically saying, listen, very soon keys and keychains will not exist. Therefore, you shouldn't invest in this. And I said, well, I think they're awesome and we're going to do it. And we have gotten an incredible review. I jokingly call them Corinthian leather. Nobody knows what that is, but it sounds a little high end. But we've been doing that. And this is a real thing that I need to follow up with Emily on. When we have somebody start, like we just started someone, we're given a Yeti, we're given a hats, we're given all this, we're given books. And then we're like, oh, do we have like a shopping bag, or is it like a Kroger plastic bag we can dump this stuff in? And I'm like, do you guys also do bags? Or there's lots of other products here that you could attach a patch to. Maybe go into a little bit about what other product categories you could say, hey, if you haven't thought about this, Hartman, we can solve your problem with a backpack or a messenger bag or something like that.
Yeah, we do backpacks and messenger bags and fleece vests and jackets, and make everything from Carhartt to North Face to some cheaper options out there. Really, anything you put on your body other than a t-shirt, that's something we can decorate for you. And just the knowledge we have to make sure that we're pairing you up with the right thing, I think is super important. We do care about what we make here. We're obsessed about it. But yeah, the keychains just kind of came out of, we have these laser machines in our warehouse, trying to keep them busy. And also, if someone's going to give something away, lower barrier to entry for someone to order something from us, right? Like you get a $5, $7 keychain rather than, a $16 hat. It's a little bit easier for people if they're just going to be giving something away. And they're high quality, they're cool. We have like this vintage, we have vintage brass buckles and stuff on there. They, again, that was all designed, that was all intentional to find the look that we think that people want.
Yeah, we have done a variety of things. We've done blankets, socks, hard shell coolers. There's lots. It's surprising what's come through here.
the hard shell cooler. Tell me about that, because we have a big event coming up where we are having people flying in and they're being very generous with their time. And I'm like, how can we do something awesome? And I was thinking like a Yeti cooler or something, but I'm like, I still want to give me a Yeti cooler. I want to have like maybe their logo or our logo or like something cool on it. Obviously you're not stitching something into a Yeti, are you?
No, it's I think I misspoke on that one. It's like the hard shell inserts on those coolers.
Oh, yeah.
So they appear to be a hard physical cooler, but they still have that outer layer with, zipper pockets and stuff like that.
Yes, I'm totally with you. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey guys, just congratulations on all your success here. I want to make sure we're not burying the lead. Make it very obvious. What's the URL? What should be the next action if someone says, you know what? I got a hat on my head right now. Quality's not great. I don't really like it, but it's kind of the lowest common denominator, and I want to invest in some really cool stuff. Where can they go to learn more about you guys and Custom Patch Hats?
Check out custompatchhats.com. Pretty straightforward. It's a boring company name, but we're pretty cool, I think. We have a wealth of information on there. We have galleries of photos with people wearing the hats. We have information on all of our different types of patches that we talked about today, all the different hats we talked about today. They're all up there. And just click the button on the side that says get a quote, fill out your name, how many hats you're looking for. If you have the idea, the style of the hat you're looking for, upload your logo, and we get back to you in a day or two with some designed hats. There's no money up front to get a design, to get a quote, to get to see your custom products, digitally. We want to build that relationship with you guys to make sure you get something you like before you give us a penny.
hello@custompatchhats.com is our email address as well.
That's your email. Okay. Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, Brian, what initially drew me to make that order was the patch hats were just coming around. I was seeing more of them. I'm like, dude, that's cool. We should do that. And then I just made the mistake of just being like, I don't know, corporate hats. And then you're like, oh no. And the educational component that I was pretty quickly able to say, okay, these are the different things. Here much they cost. I felt educated in a very short amount of time. And I think regardless of whether it's a subcontractor or a GC or commercial or residential or landscape or whatever, whoever is listening and what their business is, when someone comes in, they're going to have some questions. And if you can make them feel smart about the decision they're making and then have no money down to get a quote, you've removed a lot of those barriers. And I thought you guys did an awesome job several years ago, and it's only gotten more detailed. And I would also say is make sure follow you guys on Instagram. I think just on the way you guys bring that to life, most folks in our industry aren't doing, I'll say charitably, well enough when it comes to kind of Instagram and how to make it engaging and interesting. And you guys are doing a great job on that. So congrats.
Yeah, please check out Instagram. We update it every day. You can see a lot of behind the scenes stuff of the staff that's here, how we work, how things are being made, a little bit of, about us, about everyone that works here. We definitely, same thing in the construction industry, the wholesale apparel market. They're not really spending a whole lot of time on having a personality, and we have one. So we want to show people it.
Awesome. Mr. Brian Cox, Scott Alexander of Custom Patch Hats, congratulations on all your success. And thank you for making time to talk to me and share your insights and experience with our audience.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot for having us. It was fun.
It's fun to nerd out. I love it.
All right then, friends, how did that go? Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Scott Alexander and Brian Cox of Custom Patch Hats. I know we just said it at the end of the episode there. I would strongly encourage you to follow them on Instagram, see what they're doing. They are operating at a very high level on social media as well, and I think you can learn from some of the tactics that they are using. And of course, if you are only listening to this as a podcast, number one, thank you for listening. But also, we are recording video for nearly every single episode that we record. So as we are talking about the finer details of the different types of patches, if that sort of thing, nerding out on that detail, interests you, or you are thinking about designing your own custom hat, I would strongly encourage you to go to YouTube. Look for Bradley Hartman and Company, and you will see we have all sorts of videos there. Why? Well, we want to make it easy for you to see, in this case, the detail in the hat, so you can see what we're actually talking about, but also make it easier to share. And as we're talking about leadership and culture and better management to grow your business, I want to make these conversations and these insights easier to share. That's where we're investing. So go to YouTube, follow us, subscribe at Bradley Hartman and Co. Again, this episode is brought to you by our very own The Simple Sales Pipeline. We built this for you after working with dozens of companies over the years who are not consistently forecasting their revenue, but absolutely must as we head into more uncertain times. Our commitment to you is that we can solve that in 30 minutes or less by going to thesimpleSalesPipeline.com. Check it out. And that, my friend, is all I have for you today. So thank you once again. I realize your time and your attention is a limited asset. I appreciate you investing it here. If you have ways that we can improve this product, this podcast, our videos, if there are things that we can talk about or topics or guests that we should have on the show, do not hesitate to email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. We're going to close out like we always do. You, my friends, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. And if you're curious, yes, you can go to bradleyhartmanandco.com and you can buy your very own custom patch hat that says, that's right, you are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.